started to get insights in the fact that, not necessarily reptilian, but that there was a non-human element to this. And at that point, I traveled America for place to place talking for about 15 days and met 12 separate people who told me about reptilian entities and their experiences with them. And that's how it works, and then it goes on. So coming around to this new information, it was the same sequence. I started writing this book from the early part, maybe about March 2009, although a great chunk was stopped when I was traveling. And I don't know, a month, 2 months into it, I sat down to start writing that day. And the energy in the room changed. I thought, I know this, I recognize this. The energy in the room changed. There was a vibrational change. You could feel it. The atmosphere changed, is a simple way of putting it. I recognized this. And what I then got as this was happening is the basic first theme was the moon is not real. Of course, there's more to know about that as came, but the moon is not real. The moon is not what you think it is. And I'm thinking, the moon's not what you think it is. Now, I've had one or two inklings about that over the years, a little thought, you know, in the moon, but then it's gone. It's never gone anywhere. And so I thought, the moon's not real. So I put a few keywords into NetFind, not expecting to find a bloody thing. And within a minute, 2 minutes, I don't know, even less, I suppose, with the speed of Google and stuff, up came a book called Who Built the Moon by two researchers who've written other books. Who Built the Moon? I mean, you know, what a wonderful title for what I've just got here. The moon's not real. And I read it. I was sent for it, and I read it immediately. And I'm not saying every last thing in the book or every last thing in any book is 100%. I mean, crikey, we're trying to uncover great mysteries, and not least mysteries that don't want to be uncovered, or at least people that don't want us to uncover them. So, you know, I'm not saying every last word in every book is 100%. Of course it's not. It's not the way things are. But I was really, really impressed with the way they'd shown the anomalies, this very strange, unexplainable anomalies about how, well, first of all, how the moon was created. When I started reading about the scientific explanations, and that's another thing, you know, so many scientific theories, by repetition, become, this is how it was, scientific fact. And then you go, hold on a second, scientific fact, let's go back here. Hey, it's a theory. And I came across the big whack theory about how the moon was created. And it's that a Mars-type planet hit the Earth, a great chunk came off the Earth and became the moon. And then I read, as I followed this through, that because the physics and stuff, the science of that didn't pan out, then they kind of altered it a bit, so that the planet hit the Earth and then came back and had another go. And I thought, well, that's bloody desperate, that. Yeah, I'll give you one. Do you want another one? Yeah, okay, here you go. Yeah, it's the moon now. See what you caused? And the fact that the moon is far bigger than it really should be as a satellite of the Earth, that its positioning and its geometry, geometric and mathematical relationship between the Earth and the Sun particularly is very, very impressive. And and the fact that there is evidence that the moon is hollow, to a large extent hollow. I think it's in compartments. And then I came across, which many people might have come across in the past, this is all very concertinaed. The two scientists from the Soviet Academy of Sciences who wrote an article in, I think it was Sputnik magazine in the 1970s, posturing that the moon was a construct, not a total construct necessarily, but a hollowed out planetoid, again, hollowed out, and that a very advanced extraterrestrial, non-human, whatever you want to call it, life form, technologically advanced, had created this construct. And they go into detail about how they think it's constructed. And when you follow the way they say it's constructed, it starts to answer anomalies that science goes, what? As one scientist said, the only thing you can really say about the moon is its observational error. It shouldn't be there in the way that it is. One of the things the scientists said, for instance, is that on the outside of the moon, for about 3 miles or so, is an initial buffer zone, if you like, to protect it from being smacked by space debris and objects. And then they say, I'm not saying this is absolutely 100% true, but I think the themes are probably absolutely right. Then there's like a 20-mile, they said, impregnable barrier. And then you've got the craters on the moon, which, despite their different sizes and obviously power of impact, they've got a pretty universal depth, which people have said, how can that be when you've got different... so something's going so far and then no further. Anyway, all this came together, and I put loads of... There's a lot of detail in the book. And then I rang the oracle, didn't I? So I rang Credo Mutwa, the Zulu shaman, the official historian for the Zulu nation. And I found that if you take the symbolism of Zulu legends, I found them to be extraordinarily accurate over the years. And one of the things that makes me smile is these mainstream anthropologists and historians and what have you, they so often take symbolic stories that the ancients tell, and they decode them literally, because they're left-brain people. That's all they can do. They can't just spin the thing through the process of seeing it's symbolic. Because we are at a time when it's so much easier to communicate what we're trying to say, because more and more and more technology is mirroring the very reality that we are experiencing. For instance, this virtual reality universe is a vibrating information construct. And we decode that information through the electrical into the holographic to create this reality. I've just described the internet, you see. If the wireless internet is in this room, then your computer over there can pull this worldwide collective reality out of the unseen ether. Well, that's what we're doing in a much more sophisticated way. This is why the information construct is so fundamental to the holographic reality that we experience. And what the ancients had was none of this stuff. These seers and carriers of the knowledge, to try to get across what they were trying to say about reality and life, they had to use the symbolism that was available to them, and the symbolism that their audience, the people of that time, could understand. All of which is a prerequisite to this. I called Credo. I told him nothing about my thoughts on the moon and how what stuff I'd kind of linked together up to that point. I said one simple sentence. Credo, can you tell me any Zulu legends about the moon? Oh yes, Mr. David. He said, we call the moon an egg. We say the moon is an egg. Of course, an anthropologist who wasn't aware of this stuff looked at the moon's an egg. Primitive people, primitive. They'd never pass an exam, you know. Why do they symbolize an egg? Because they say the moon was hollowed out. Was hollowed out by two brothers, reptilian brothers, called Mpanku and Wuani. And they were known as the Water Brothers in the Zulu legends. And they say that they hollowed out the moon and rolled it across the sky hundreds of generations ago. And when they brought it to the earth, it created great geological catastrophe. And of course, when the moon came in, one of the things it would do is make the earth move. And then you've got this ancient theme of the earth turning over. It would, basically, what it would do is destroy whatever was there before. And then they can build, as everything settles down, those within the moon can build their own new society. I'm absolutely certain that's what happened. And interestingly, of course, Bill, as you will well know, Mpanku and Wuani, who in Zulu legends had scaly skin like a fish, were two brothers. They were called the Water Brothers. This is the legends of Zulu South Africa. Take that to Sumer, Babylon, and the Sumerian tablets, And you come into the Anunnaki, who were led by Enki and Enlil, and certainly Enki was very much symbolized and associated with water. They were, they were brothers. And again, it mirrors that whole story. And so many stories about brothers, things like Cain and Abel, and all these brother stories. I think you bring them back. They have an original theme coming back from these, what I would say, reptilian entities. And the Zulu legends say that Wawani and Mpanku were reptilian, what they call there the Chitahuri, children of the serpent, children of the python. They stole the moon from what they call the great fire dragon and brought it to the earth. And the moon brought catastrophe, changed everything, of course. It affected the angle and spin of the earth, the whole bloody thing. It affects water. It has tremendous impacts on the human hormonal system, which locks into the endocrine system, which locks into the pineal and pituitary gland and the third eye, seeing beyond five sense sight and being aware of levels beyond five senses. It has a fundamental impact. Never mind other things that I'm saying is coming out of that moon. Being there, that size, that place, has fundamental effects on the moon. And going back to what I was talking about earlier, I'm saying that when that moon arrived, in association with other things that happened around at the same time, because there's a whole story to tell about Mars and what happened to that in this story, see, we look at the moon like everything else, and we see a solid moon. That's the holographic, decoded level of it. Its prime state is an informational construct, like everything, in the waveform base informational construct of this reality. So as the moon came in physically, it only came in physically in the holographic play-out reality, we call five-sense reality, I call it anyway, keep it simple. It was actually information moving in through the informational waveform construct, and that caused the distortion, which is manifest on this planet of all the things we've talked about before. And that distortion has manifested itself in the control system, has manifested itself in fractured human personalities, in disharmony, and in a desperately limited sense of self in the world. Because when you are in harmony and in balance, you can access higher levels of consciousness. But when your energy field is doing this, all that stuff, with all the things, worry, fear, then you're not in that state. And therefore, what you can tune into and what you can bring down in terms of understanding, awareness, insight, even manifestation, is fundamentally limited to the harmonic, harmonious state of awareness that we were in before, humans were in before the distortion. And like I say, these truth vibrations are healing the distortion. And the manifestation of the distortion is now throwing everything at us to try to hold on to what is something that is being energetically deleted from the disk, which is why the world is going to change dramatically, and after this cusp has got through, dramatically for the better.